JJ Solomon.
This Corey Bradshaw, Mr. RTBA, Mr. These boys can't touch me on my worst day. And this is the Spit Bucket Podcast.
It's your boy, Mr. RTBA, Mr. 214, Senor Dos Uno Cuatro, Senor Dos Catorce, Mr. Undeniable, Mr. D Boys Can't Touch Me. On my worst day, I'm right here with my dog, my partner in crime, my brother from another, Mr. JJ Solomon. What's popping, my guy?
It's popping, bro. It's a beautiful Monday evening. It's fight week. Tank Davis, Ryan Garcia. The fight everybody's been waiting for, man. We kicked off Davis Garcia fight week yesterday with B-Hop, but we're going round two, day two of Davis Garcia fight week. Do you want to make the introduction?
Man, yeah, man. We have the son of a legend.
Son of boxing royalty.
Alexis Arguello Sr. Man, when you talk about big time being legendary, you know, his father, the way when in a three belt, in the era, he never lost his belt. He always relinquished them, Jay, to move up and test himself to be better. And now we have the honor and pleasure to have his son on our show. His son carry his own weight, right? Because this dude started at CBS in 2003. He worked all the way to CBS until this January, JJ, when he started working for Showtime as a producer. Say, I need everybody from the 214 to wherever you at to across the pond to give Alex Arguello Jr. a big old hand clap for that.
What's up, Mr. Alexis Arguello Jr.? How are you, sir?
Good, guys. How are you? How are you today? Thanks for having me on.
Thank you, man.
We appreciate you, man. We appreciate you, man. It's a pleasure and an honor to have the son of a great, you know, who grew up in the trenches with it, you know, because we cover the sport of boxing and we love the sport of boxing. So to have, you know, the son of royalty on our show, it's just a pleasure, man.
Let me throw a couple of fun facts out here. Because I'll tell you what, Alexis Arguello, he was not the type to toot his own horn. He wasn't like these boxers you see these days where it's all about me and patting my back and my accolades. But we're talking about rings, 100 greatest punchers. They had him at number 20. The Associated Press, world's best junior lightweight of the 20th century. Like Corey mentioned, 3-division world champ. And he didn't lose those belts. He lost those belts by chasing greatness. We hear that term a lot. So once again, Alexis Arguello Jr., thanks for joining us. Fresh off of vacation in Puerto Rico. How you feeling today, man?
I'm doing great. You know what? It's amazing that you guys mentioned, you know, that he never lost those titles, because that's the one thing that he would always bring up. You know, like that's where I'm different, you know, than most of the old fighters. That's like the one thing that he was always so proud of, that he never lost those titles. You know, like he you know, obviously had fights and defended them, but never, you know, lost them in the ring. So that was huge for him.
You hear that all the time. You know, it's one thing to get to be a champ. It's a whole nother thing to defend those championships. And, you know, obviously your pops did in a hell of a fashion. But let's take it back to the beginning, man. Let's talk about the early days and, you know, you seeing your pops win the belt. And what was that like? What was the childhood for Alexis Arguello Jr.?
It was great. You know, it was surreal. You know, like I obviously didn't appreciate what I went through, you know, because I was so young. You know, like my dad, when I guess I was born in 72, so I was 2 years old when he won his first title, you know, and I don't remember the Olivares fight at all, but I do remember, you know, a lot of fights like the Escaleras and Mancini, Rooney, you know, Elizondo. those fights. Obviously, there's a lot of tension and a lot of anxiety that goes with it. And a lot of eggshells that we used to walk in,
For
especially with
sure.
my dad making weight and stuff. But I wouldn't change it for the world. I got to experience and see things and be places that people would die to be. So I'm very blessed, very blessed.
Hey, speaking of that, Alexis, you spoke on growing up with your dad, how when he was cutting weight, it used to be tension in the household. Can you speak on that, sir?
Oh yeah, man. I mean, training camp is one thing. You're getting your mind and your body ready for a fight. So it's not always fun. Especially when you're trying to cut weight. Especially with my dad, because he used to, have to cut a lot of weight, but not in a bad way. Like he never ever got heavy or anything like that, but it did get tight when it came to fight. Time that he did have to struggle, and the hard thing for him was that. He always used to like be upset at the dinner table because you have to think about this, here, this is how he used to break it down to us. He used to be like, listen, I grew up poor, right? I never had any food to eat. And now I have money and I still can't eat.
Oh, damn, man, that's
So
frustrating.
you would get upset, and here we are at dinner, not realizing and not, like really paying attention to it. And we're stuffing our face and, and he's just shaking his head. Guys, but but other than that, the fight weeks and the fight month, all that stuff, it was taxing, it was stressful, but at the same time, it was the life that we knew. We didn't know anything different, like
As a kid of a fighter, a kid of a champ, world champ, hero, a hero representing his country. Was there ever pressure for you to fight as growing up, or was he more take the approach of I don't want my kid fighting, that's why I'm doing this?
That was his approach. Like
Yeah.
he always told me, he's like, please don't do it, don't do it, don't do it. Growing up, he's like, listen, if you want to try it, go ahead, but you have to go to school first. You have to graduate from high school. I wanted to go to college. I wanted to do all those things, and but there was never any pressure. Like that was like the last thing he wanted me to do. Was become a boxer.
So speaking of that, let's talk about you. Like you went to college. You went to a junior college for 2 years.
Oh, I went to a JUCO for 2 years. You know what got me to go to college? I played lacrosse in high school.
Yeah, I was just gonna speak on that.
Wow.
So I played lacrosse in high school, and that's a sport that my dad, my family, no one knew. And my dad's like, what is that? What are you playing? But he liked it because I was using it as a vehicle for myself. So that got me to college. And I transferred from the 2-year to Stony Brook out in Long Island. And, I always knew that I wanted to work in television. So Stony Brook didn't have a television major, so I had to do theater production. I did all like behind the scenes, like stage building and, like moving sets around while the stage production's going on. So like that's all the production that I was able to get and put on my resume. So, I took the chance, and as soon as I graduated, I started sending it out and got lucky and got a TV gig. So.
Yeah, but what you spoke on, what I wanted to speak on is, like you stated, the college you transferred to, they didn't have production. You spoke on that you made a mistake because the other school that you left, they had like the number one or a great production.
Yeah, that's right. I actually, when I was at my junior college, I had the opportunity to go to Marist, and they have one of the best television programs in the country. Like I didn't really realize it, because I was just more focused on what team's going to be better for me to play for.
Lacrosse?
Yeah. I was just focused on the better team and the better program. And I also thought about the one thing that I did think about is, I was going to be out on Long Island. And that's closer to the city and being close to New York City as opposed to being in Poughkeepsie and upstate kind of. So that was one of the reasons why I decided to go to Stony Brook, and it worked out. It worked out pretty well. So that's very lucky and very blessed. So.
Yeah, that's interesting, man. You're spending some time in theater. You boxed too, is that correct?
Yeah, I did. In between my junior and senior year of college at Stony Brook, I decided to start fighting amateur. I was like 25, I graduated late from high school because when I came to the States, I didn't know how to speak English, so
Oh, I got you.
I was going into third grade in Nicaragua, but when I moved to Miami, they put me back in first.
Wow.
I was like 2 years
Oh,
older
they
than
push you back.
they pushed me back. Like I was always the older kid. So then, I by the time I got to start boxing, I wasn't until like 24, 25 years old. And I took a year off and I went to upstate New York. I went to Canastota because this is what happened. When I was in my junior college, it was in upstate New York. It was in this town called Herkimer College, and it's between Albany and Syracuse.
Okay.
So there was this, this event that they were having at the college, and it was a charity event, and it was a boxing matches that, they had from kids from the community would fight other guys from like Syracuse and stuff like that. And my team got wind of this and they were like, Alexis, you should try it, because I was taking guys to the gym in the town to go box during the season and try to stay in shape, so they talked me into it. And I had that fight at the college. And, my lacrosse team was in the stands and they were all cheering me on. It was pretty cool. It was fun. And I stopped the guy in the second round. And then there was one guy in the audience who happened to be Tony Graziano, who owns Graziano's in Canastota. And he came up to me, and that night he came up to me. He was like, listen, if you ever want to try boxing, he's like, I think you could do it, so give me a call. And I was like, oh, no way. I'm never going to do it. I was like, this is just a one-time thing. And sure enough, a couple of years later, I was like, you know what, maybe I'll try it. And I called him up and he's like, come on up. And I took a bus from Long Island to Syracuse. And I stayed up there maybe for a year and a half or maybe a year. And I had 14 fights up there. So,
and I hear, if I did my research correctly, your knockout percentage was pretty insane. Is that correct?
Yeah, I think I had 12 fights with 11 KOs or something like that.
So you were the guy who. This is an interesting. I'm the theater guy who also played lacrosse, who also boxes, who's 2 years too old for my class. You had an interesting mid-20s. It sounds like.
I did. It was very interesting. Very interesting.
Can we talk about
leave college?
Can we talk about that theater too? Because this one thing I know a lot of people may not know about you. I seen that your lacrosse family used to make fun of you because you used to have to go do hair and makeup. That was a part of your.
Yes.
Can you speak on that?
You guys did your research. Oh man, because that's true. I mean, like a lot of the theater classes were in the evenings, so I would be going to class like sometimes like around 6 or 7 when everybody's like raring to go out to eat, to get your drink on and to go out for the night. And I'm like, oh man, I gotta go to class, And they're like, yeah, go do hair and makeup, AJ. They would rip on me, But meanwhile, it was fun, like there was tons of people that were into sports too, in theater. So it was like a pretty good mix, and everybody got along. And it was weird at first because like I didn't want to do any acting or anything like that. Yeah. So we just started building sets, and they taught me how to weld and things like that. Yeah. So it was pretty cool.
Jack of all trades. And I'm sure 20, 30 years ago, they weren't as politically correct when it came time to making fun of people.
No way.
Theater class.
No way. Especially for that one production when I was doing hair and makeup. Yeah. Oh my God. It was never ending, man. Because I had to literally like go into like a theater shop and work with wigs and things like that.
Damn, you did the whole enchilada, playing dress up essentially.
And I had to go, like I had to do research on. We did one of the productions that we did that year was the Glass Menagerie, and it dealt with an AIDS patient, and I had to come up with a way to develop like lesions on your body so they would stick. So I had to go do all this research in the library, on gelatin, mixing gelatins and sticking them to the body, and then adding makeup tones to it to make it look like it's a real lesion, So it was a lot of stuff that went into it that I, was able to dab in a little bit and, like learn. And that was the key that got me in the door for the TV production, just because I had that little, that little bit of theater on my resume.
always awesome the way some butterfly effect action takes place for the rest of your career, man.
Yeah.
Yeah. I want to take it back. I don't know. I want to take it back a little bit, man, to the big controversy, if you're good with it, about your pop's career. You know, obviously the Aaron Pryor, the two fights, but more notably the first one.
Yeah.
You know, we won't dive too much into what happened. Obviously, that's a bad time in boxing history, and it stirs up ugly feelings. But what I want to bring ask
I was
about.
there. I was there that night.
So you were there. Yeah, I wanted to ask you that. Were you there?
Yeah.
And then how did that impact your dad? How did that impact the family, man? Because that was
You know
brutal.
what? That was a rough night for us, because you know what? We never experienced that with my dad. You know, my dad was always like, the one scare that we did get was Gannigan knocked him down in the first.
Mm-hmm.
Like that was like the one time that we were like, oh. But other than that, you know, like my dad, you know, we were used to my dad starting slow, and you know, by the 5th, 6th, 7th, he'd start taking over little by little, little by little. And you know, with that fight, it was just totally different. You know, it was just stressful the whole time. And you know what my job was, my mom never ever watched the fights live. She would always just stay in the dressing room. So my job was to go back and forth to let her know what was going on in between rounds. So I would run to the back and be like, okay, we're good, everything's okay, you know, and then I'll run back. And with that fight, it was just, you know, it was crazy. We didn't know how to handle it, you know, like the dressing room was just everybody in tears, you know, and it was difficult and then after that, I mean, I don't think Aaron either, or they were never the same.
No.
I think that took everything out of both guys, you know,
absolutely.
and it was something that was just, it was a brutal fight. I mean, from round one, they didn't stop, you know, like that round one was action packed, and that was every round, you know, every
round.
Yeah. So I know that was tough for you guys to see him lose, right?
Oh yeah.
But my question is for you, Mr. Alexis Arguello Jr., is how tough was it when the news came out, when the video evidence came out, said, give me that bottle I mixed. Give me that bottle I mixed. The one I mixed. How did y'all feel then?
You know what? Everybody felt obviously betrayed and cheated, but you know, my dad viewed it in a way that you know, I remember talking to him about it, and I was like, we need to do something, right? Aren't we going to do something? And he's like, well, I don't want to win the title, you know, like in a court. I want to win it in the ring, you know? So that's pretty much what it all came down to. And he didn't want to do anything about it. So
it's an interesting element. You know, a lot of us right now, everything is available the moment it happens. You watch a fight, something looks sketchy in the corner. We're talking about it the moment it happens. From what you remember, because you said it yourself, that fight felt different. It looked different.
Oh yeah.
How long after did y'all doubt? Did y'all suspect something was weird? And then the news came out. Like what did the post fight feel like?
I don't remember being a part of the conversations much, like right after it happened, because I was so young. You know, I'm sure there was talks in the house about it, and I don't know. You know, like the Miami Boxing Commission just dropped the ball. You know. I mean, everything, as soon as the fight was over, it was just pandemonium in the ring, you know, and my dad was still on the canvas, and everybody rushed, and people had to huddle around him, you know. But yeah, they never took the gloves. They never took any kind of urine samples after or anything like that. Actually, I think they did do a drug test after. I don't know what those results were, but yeah, I mean, you know, from when you saw the replay, you could obviously tell that something went on. And what I question now is, you know, what I think to myself when I view that fight is like, how come nobody picked up on it? You know, like, how come nobody in the production picked up on that? Like, you know, somebody in the truck should have heard that and told the announcers, you know, like there's something going on. Because everybody knows, you know, you're not supposed to mix anything with the waters that you're giving your fighters. So, I mean, I don't put that on the commentators or anybody, but it's still like should have been like maybe the production's job to kind of bring that to light, you know, and be like, oh, wait, you know, that's not right. There's something sketchy going on there that doesn't seem right, you know.
And on that, and Corey,
No, go ahead.
Do you find yourself being involved with the production, especially now that you're more into boxing full time at Showtime? Do you find yourself being cognizant and aware of conversation because of your history? Like, hey, I have a responsibility here, or has it not come up?
No, that stuff has never come up. That stuff has never come up. I mean, you know, and you know, if I was ever put in that situation, I would have to do the right thing, you know.
Yeah, for sure.
That's just the way it is, and it's just to benefit the fighter. You know, you always have to think that the welfare and, you know, the health of the boxer is the number one thing, and that's all we should care about. You know?
For sure, especially coming with that background. And like I was upset, really upset when Conor Ben recently tested positive. I always get upset when I see these things, but I feel like those guys should be extra careful because of what happened with Gerald McClellan and Nigel Benn in the 90s. Gerald McClellan pretty much being a vegetable now. I feel like the Ben family should be extra careful, extra aware of what goes into their body. So that's why I asked you that question. Are you extra aware of what goes on, the conversation behind the scenes, because of what happened between Aaron Pryor and your dad?
No, I don't think I'm you know, hypersensitive to things like that. No, I don't think so. I mean, you know, it's something that happened to us in the past, so I don't really dwell on that too much. You know, like that happened to my dad, it happened to our family, and it was an awful thing. Sure. You know, but and I wish that, you know, that I'm sure without that product, we would have had a different ending.
Absolutely.
Well, I know in my heart that my dad won that fight.
Mm-hmm.
And you're not alone on that. There's a lot of people, and not taking anything away from Aaron Pryor, but we saw where that fight was going.
I love Darren. I love the Pryor family. We love each other. You know, we'll always have that bond. So.
I thought you was gonna, bro. You go. I thought you was gonna talk about.
Yeah, and that's what I was gonna say. We know we saw you guys together last year when y'all were actually in Dallas for Ugas and Spence, which is when I met you, man. But how's that element between that relationship? No bad blood there or anything along those lines?
No, you know what? There's no bad blood there. Well, like I said, I love that family, and I always will. And you know what? It isn't necessarily Aaron's fault. I don't think I blame Aaron. Right. You know, that's all Panama. That's all Panama. So I can't necessarily put blame on Aaron. I don't think my dad did either. To be honest,
great man.
You know, especially as, you know, the way I viewed it is, if my dad didn't have anything against, you know, Aaron, and they were great friends, then why do I have anything against them?
I want to talk about you some more though too, because it's going to coincide with your father, because I know we're going to talk about that too as well. Now, when your father ended his career, he went and became, I think, the vice mayor, then became the mayor. Now, I want to get back to you, right? You were almost about to finish college, right? Like, and you went down there. You was chilling with your father. You took like 15 cards, right? And you said, when I finish college, I'm gonna call these cards. And you so happened to call this lady named Laura, and I think the name of the company was Classic Sports. Correct me if I'm wrong.
You're right, Classic Sports.
Now, I understand that it's some perks with having a famous father, but when I look at you, that was a perk, but you still had to call and, you know, do your due diligence, and you had to interview and everything. Can you talk about that and how much Laura meant to your career?
Oh my God, Lori Orlando, I owe everything to her, because, you know, she gave me that opportunity. You know, this is what it was. I called her just out of the blue. You know, like I did do that. I was in Nicaragua for the summer, and I literally just raided my dad's Rolodex, you know, because I was close to graduating college, and I just took all the TV, you know, cards that he had pretty much. And then as soon as I graduated, you know, I called her up at Classic Sports Television. They were in Manhattan. And she's like, I literally just got the okay to hire a boxing production assistant. And she's like, come on in, you know, let's talk. And she asked me a couple of questions about boxing. And I mean, I grew up in the sport, and my dad loved the history of boxing. So I would watch Joe Louis, you know, I would watch Henry Armstrong, everyone that my dad loved, I knew about them, you know. And they asked me some historical questions, and of course I got them all right. So they hired me on the spot, and I was working in boxing. I was like, I'm in heaven. This is amazing.
Yeah.
I was doing something, and I knew the fighters. So like all those old tapes, like Tony Graziano, Tony Zale, like all those guys, like I knew about them. So, when it came down to do a show or something, I knew the names, I knew like the log tape, I knew who they were, so it was like, wow, this is an amazing job. And then, 6 months after that, ESPN bought them out and turned them into ESPN Classic.
Okay, I got you.
So then they gave me the opportunity to move up to Bristol, and I lived in Bristol for 6 months. And then Bristol was just crazy because you don't get too much separation between work and your social life, because the only people that live up there are the people that work up there. So after work, you're hanging out with the same
ESPN folks.
And then I go home and I want to watch sports, and I'm on ESPN.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Can I do a follow-up question with that, Jay?
Go ahead, man.
I can't get away from it. So it was just a little, I was like, oh man, I'm just like, I wanted to go back to Manhattan too. My girlfriend lived in Brooklyn at the time, and so I was going back and forth every weekend, leaving Bristol on a Friday and coming back on a Sunday. So I was like, I want to get back to the city. So I ended up resigning in Bristol, and I moved back, and I called Lori Orlando again, and she gave me a job at Oxygen Media. So the women's network. Yeah.
Okay.
I want to talk about your run. I think it was CBS. You work for them, right?
Yeah. So go ahead.
So this was interesting about me doing my research about you. You used to have to go to your boss and find colleges, different colleges to go to contact the coach and go film them at practice, and film them, and then put your 3 or 4 minute video together, and you put the dialogue to it. Can you speak on that?
Yeah, that's pretty much, I started doing a little bit of that, and I shoot too. I have my own camera, so I do shoot a lot of my own stuff. But I started shooting at Oxygen. They were like, "You want to shoot?" I was like, "All right, sure, I'll try it." So I started doing it, and I liked it. I really enjoyed it. And after Oxygen, it was 9/11. After 9/11, I got laid off from Oxygen. So there was a year where I was a PE coach. I worked at St. David's on the Upper East Side in Manhattan as a PE coach. And in between jobs, because I couldn't find any TV work right after 9/11. And then sure enough, like a year into me coaching, Lori Orlando, I'm like,
oh man, that's awesome.
She called me and she's like, "Listen, I have a production assistant position available. You want to get back into TV?" I was like, "Done."
Yeah, for sure.
And then like that CSTV position, I started in 2003 at CSTV, and that was rolled into CBS College Sports, and eventually it turned into CBS Sports Network, what is now. So I started in 2003 as a PA at CSTV, which is now CBS Sports Network. So I started as a PA, and then little by little just learned the producing aspect of things. Pretty much I got thrown into the fire. Somebody, a guy named Dave Segerman, he was like, "Listen, you're going to go on the road and you're going to shoot some stuff and do some interviews." And he's like, "You could do it." I was like, "Okay." So we did a road trip, and we did a bunch of, I think we did a story on Mount Union. There's a D3 school. I think they're in Illinois. I'm not sure where, but they were a powerhouse, in football. So I went out and did a story on that. And little by little, you would pretty much whatever came into season, you would look for stories and try to find, the players that you thought were going to be great. And you'd pitch them to my boss, who was Emily Deutsch at CBS Sports, who was also amazing, who was great. And what an amazing boss that I had there. And, it was just, you pitch a story, and if it was a go, you'd call the school, you'd contact the sports information director, and, see what day would work. And, I'd start jotting down the questions and try to see how I'm going to tell this story, and I'd probably interview the coach, the player, and then maybe a position coach if it came down to it. And, just develop my questions, go there, do the interview, shoot some practice, shoot some specialty of the guy, and then, come back to New York and put it together.
Wow. That's dude, it sounds perfect for like your all access stuff now.
Yeah, it was that same stuff. Yeah. And the beauty of the all access now is that with when March Madness rolled around, what we did is we embedded with the teams. Mm-hmm. So from Selection Sunday to throughout the tournament, it was a 3-man crew. It was a producer and 2 shooters and an editor, and we were with the team. We literally were with them in their hotels. We were on their flights, and we would document, their journey throughout the tournament. So we were with these guys from sun up to to sundown, and cutting stuff at night and delivering like 3 to 4 minute pieces the next day. So it was a grind, but it was a lot of fun, and you got to be with the teams and get to know the players, so it was really cool. Really cool.
Man, that's awesome, man. Well, listen, I want to ask you something. It's probably a tough conversation, right? But I know this is something that you do want to put some awareness and attention on. Correa and I are heavy proponents, and we want to put an emphasis on the mental health game of boxing, in all mental health, but specifically combat sports. We know your pops on paper, his way of passing is on paper is listed as suicide. We know. Anybody who pays attention to the story, anybody who's paid attention to you knows that there's a lot of controversy on that. I want to respect the family. I want to respect you and what you want to talk about. But like I said, I do know that this is something you do want to put awareness on with the government out of Nicaragua and that sort of deal. Can you share with us what went down? I guess just what you want to share, what you want to talk about your father's passing. I know that was a tough time back in 2009, but
yeah, you know what? It was just really a sad situation because I knew it was going to end up in something was going to happen. My dad was going through his tough times, and the Sandinista government, kind of like got him in a good place with him and told him, listen, if you come to our side, we'll return everything that we took from you when the war started. Because we left Nicaragua in 79 or late 78. We were going to Mexico. My dad was going to train there and have a camp for a fight. Mm-hmm. Right. And the revolution started. So we couldn't go back. What the 3 suitcases that we had in Mexico was everything that we had for the rest of our lives, because we left everything behind in Nicaragua thinking that we were going to go back there, and we couldn't go back. Once that war started, it was like, listen, this is the last place that your dad should be. So we stayed in Mexico for a year, and then we moved to Miami. So then, fast forward to when my dad's having his issues, and they say, listen, we'll return what we can. We'll give you your old house back. And, you should come to our side. So my dad, obviously he said, yeah. And he became vice mayor, and it was good. He was doing great. He was on the right path, doing everything right. And I told him, I was like, listen, I'm extremely happy. I love the news. This is great. That's awesome. But you gotta be careful. Things go down in these countries, you got to be careful. I was like, there's, and I told him straight out. And I felt bad to say it to him, but I was like, listen, this could end 2 ways. I was like, you could either become president of this country or you could end up dead. And he was like, well, I hope it's not the latter. And he like laughed it off. And I was like, listen, I love the idea, but you know what? And I know that he wanted to do it just to help the people, because that's his number one thing. He wanted to help as many people as he could. So, sure enough, he becomes mayor. And then, every night I would go to sleep and I knew, one day I'd get that call. And I did. So I get that call at 3 a.m, and his wife calls me and she's like, your dad just killed himself. Literally just like that. Wow. And I'm like, what? I'm like, what are you talking about? He's like, yeah, he just shot himself. I'm like, well, what are you talking? I'm like, you're telling me just like that? You're telling me like Like, go get a glass of milk. Like there was no emotion
Wow.
whatsoever, no emotion, no screaming, nothing. And I was in shock, and I was just like, listen, do me a favor. I'm going to be there tomorrow. So don't touch them. Don't do anything. Please don't do anything until I get there. And sure enough, I got on the next flight out the next morning. I was in Managua by 4 o'clock the next day. And I get into the car that picked me up, and the radio is playing, and it's the medical examiner giving a press conference, already giving out all the details of the postmortem report, the toxicology report, the ballistics report that the police so-called did in under 8 hours, or under the 24 hours that it took me to get there. So right from the start, I was like, this is super shady.
Yeah.
This was around the time when Michael Jackson had passed away, Farrah Fawcett, I think, had passed
Oh,
away,
okay, yeah, that's right.
and their autopsies and all those toxicology reports took 6 months to get. And here you're going to tell me that in Nicaragua you're going to get toxicology reports and ballistics and police reports faster than you can in the United States. I'm like, that's impossible. Like, that is impossible.
Yeah.
So from the get, I was like, you're lying. You're lying. I was telling everybody that, I want to see my dad's body. They wouldn't let me see it.
Jeez, man.
And it was just red flags all over the place. I mean, from the moment we got there, they took us to a hotel, and we knew that we couldn't talk in that room because it was probably bugged. Like, we had people following us. We had
Wow, man.
we had people following us the whole week that we were there. So when my dad's wake was happening at this big outdoor cathedral,
Yeah, I've seen the photos.
yeah, they had his casket out, right? And they had it draped with the red and black flag. And as soon as I saw that, I was like, what? I was like, take that off. Take it off right now. And everybody was like didn't know what to do. I was like, take it off right now. And I ended up taking it off myself. And we put the white, the national flag on it instead. But everybody was pissed after I did that, And the next day I got a call and they're like, oh, we moved your flight up and you're going to leave today. I was like, no, I'm not. I'm not leaving here until the day that I was supposed to leave. And that's 5 days from now. So you can tell me that I'm leaving, but I'm not leaving. And I'm going to get as much media attention that I can.
Yeah.
And everywhere I went, I tried to talk to as many people as I could. And just to start, raising the question that, whatever they say that happened, never happened.
And I'm
tough,
like speaking on that because, I did my research about that too. What was so disheartening, and I felt it deep, but you being a family member, you going to your dad's house, or not that, or the government telling you that they're going to keep your dad belts and they're going to make a museum out of it. And then it's a two-part question. Can you talk about that? And then talk about when you went to his ex-wife or his wife's house, how can you speak on that? Because I don't want to give it all away. But can you talk about the belts first? And
Yeah. So while we were staying at this hotel, I guess his name was Chico Lopez. He was like the Secretary of State or whatever he was. And he calls me down to the office and he's like, listen, he's like, I don't want you to think that you're going to take anything that your dad has here because we're going to keep everything. Jeez. And I was like, who the hell are you? Yeah. Like, those things belong to the family. He's like, no. He's like, those things are part of our country now. So we're going to make a museum based around your dad. So we're going to need all those things from him. And I was like, no, you can't keep that stuff. That stuff is mine. He's like, well, they're in his house, And I was like, yeah, well, I'm planning on going to his house and getting all those things that belong to me. And he's like, well, you're not going to be able to do it. I'm like, well, you know what? I told him flat out, I'm like, you're full of shit. And that's
yeah, man.
really messed up, And sorry to curse, but I was
good.
one of those moments. I was like, this is really, ridiculous that you guys would even try this, man. It just shows you the kind of people they are, And then a day later, we end up getting the okay to go to my dad's house, and we get there, and I guess they didn't have anybody from the government there yet. So they made me wait outside my dad's gates for almost 2 hours.
Jeez,
2 hours.
man.
I was standing outside until somebody from the government got there just to I guess be vigilant of me, trying to take anything or whatever. So we get there, we're finally let in the house, and his wife comes in and she's like, oh yeah, here, let me show you what you guys can take. And I was like, oh,
man.
I was like, here she is. She's really gonna deal. I was like, wow, she's gonna take us to the room, and I'm getting my dad's stuff. And so she walks us into my dad's closet, and she's like, here, take whatever clothes you want. Take his suits. My dad loved suits. My dad, when I think about it now, I was like, oh man, I should have taken every suit.
Yeah, you should take those suits.
Because my dad loved his suits. He was always dressed, to the nines. His shoes, everything. And I was just so pissed and upset. I was like, "Are you kidding me?" I was like, "This is ridiculous." Like, I have my brothers with me, and it was just so disheartening, and I was just so angry and so pissed that she would offer me his shirts and clothes, And I was like, you know what? I was like, let's go. And then we just left. And then an hour later, my uncle called me and he's like, what'd you do? I'm like, what do you mean what I do? I didn't do anything. We left. Like, we got into a shouting match with them. I was telling them, this is bullshit. You guys should be ashamed of yourselves. God will punish you. That's the last thing I said to her. And my uncle's like, oh, she just called me saying that you ransacked the house and that you totally threw everything around and this. I was like, what? I was like,
you cursed her. God will punish you.
I was like, I didn't do anything. We didn't do anything. We left. We didn't do anything. But that was her trying to make us look bad, like if we really did something bad, And it's just everywhere you turn down there, it was always, just questionable stuff happening.
That's terrible, man. Well, listen, I know we're just little old spit bucket, but anything we can do as you continue to work on, I know you mentioned a documentary in the past before. Anything we can do, dude. Our platform continues to grow a little at a time. Anything we can do, we're more than happy to help because, I tell you, I told you this in leading up to this, but I've never heard anything bad about your family. Like everybody's got opinions in boxing. That guy was a show off. That guy was all mouth. Anytime we talk about Alexis Arguello, it's great stuff. I want to close out this piece of it because we're going to take a quick break and come back and talk about the current state of boxing. But a couple of legends, arguably the two most recognizable names in the sport, if not athletes in the world. I'm going to play a couple of video clips and then we'll get your feedback real quick. So give me a quick second.
If you could fight any fighter, living or dead, who would you like to fight? What fighter in history would you like to have fought?
Alexis Arguello.
Who?
Alexis Arguello.
Don't know him.
He's unbelievable fighter.
There's that, and then more recently, this was a really, really cool moment. Let's take a look.
I'm saying what his father can do, but he can take it just like he can give it. Mm-hmm. He can take it too, and that's the sign of a great fighter. Of course, you can knock people out. Yep. Can you take it? Woof. I'm a fighter to the end. And so is his fight, his father. That's all we know. That's all I know, but the world gave me so much. All I know is fighting. Hey, where do you think you're going now? You got to chill the rest of the show. You trying to scare you? Like, let me get the fuck out of here.
Oh man, that was great. That was great. I know so that was this week with Tyson, right? Was that last week?
Yeah, we shot that actually like 2 or 3 weeks ago when we were doing the All Access with Ryan. And you know what? That was just a surreal moment for me, man. Just watching him like get teared up like that.
Yeah.
It almost made me cry. I was like, oh man, like
Brother,
that's
tear to my
why
eye.
I tried to leave to get up.
Yeah.
I had to do like that before the camera came on.
Oh my God, man.
Well,
You know what? I was like, first of all, going there to see the podcast was cool. And then him like having me on, I was like, oh my God.
The way he called you, that wasn't planned at all. He was just kind of like, hey, you're Junior, aren't you?
Yeah.
And
because I had met him before. I'd met him a couple times before. Like I'd seen him at the WBC convention a couple years ago here in Vegas. And so I know him, I know of him, and like I've met him throughout the years. So when he was like, "You're Junior, aren't you?" I was like, "Oh no."
Yeah, he knows who I am, man. I was gonna say Well, no, I was gonna say we know when Mike isn't he don't bullshit, he doesn't fake it. You can know when he's emotional because he can't even talk.
Yep.
Just like we saw in that clip. So, man, you talked about a little bit about how that made you feel, and then seeing Floyd Mayweather, another all-time great. Like it's real easy for us to take blessings for granted if we always hear it. Oh, my dad was great. My dad was great. But those moments where you sit down and man, Floyd Mayweather, Mike Tyson, like across the board, these greats. How does that make you feel, Alexis?
It makes me feel amazing, but at the same time, it's like, wow, I didn't really, cherish. I didn't know enough to cherish those moments, because I was so young. But I mean, just still that people mention my dad's name and realize that, and actually say that he's top 20 in boxing of all time. That's huge. That's insane.
Seriously.
Like, how many boxers have come to this world, and he's in the top 20, top 50, maybe,
yes.
that is just mind blowing to me. It's amazing. I love it. Any single time somebody, obviously talks about it, I'm like, wow, my dad was a badass.
I know we finna go to commercial break, so I'm gonna wait till after commercial break to ask my question because I want to talk about you getting the job at Showtime, but I'll get into it.
Yeah, here we go. Give us 60 seconds.
We all.
What the hell's going on? Sorry.
We all have battles. We fight. We train. We work. We persevere. And we celebrate. We are all one.
I can't do anything if I can't walk in my prosthetic. It's a lot of pain that I feel throughout my day. It can be very intense. Now I just put that balm over it and it will heal up much faster and it will let the callus recover. That's amazing. It is a total game changer. I am hooked. I'm just hooked.
Life is hard. KO makes it better. KOCBD.com.
KOCBD.com. This little roll-on will change your life, especially if you're old and hurting like me. Pain relief, recovery, anxiety, sleep. Check out our friends at KO Therapeutics. Go to KOCBD.com. Use the discount code TSB10. Alexis, I don't know if you're hurting and your neck's hurting and your joints are stiff. Check them out, man. I promise you.
I'm old. I need that stuff.
Now, speaking of that, like I see your shirt you got on Showtime pay-per-view. Like you was at CBS and for a long time.
Yes.
Until January, right?
Well, actually, it was last January. Yeah.
Last January.
Yeah.
So that's amazing, though, right? But the most amazing part about it was your christening to Showtime Sports doing Canelo All Access. Can you speak on that? It's the first gig.
That was my first gig. Yeah, that was while I was still working for CBS, because this is how it happened. My boss at CBS, Emily, who I mentioned earlier, she called me into her office one day and she's like, "Listen, I just got a call from David Dinkins Jr. and he was wondering if you'd ever want to do sports. I mean, do boxing." And I was like, of course I do want to do boxing. And she's like, well, he's interested in you coming over and possibly doing some work. And, he might have something coming up soon if you're available. And I was like, yeah, I'll try it. So that's what that first gig was. I kind of, because Viacom, well, Paramount now owns Showtime and CBS Sports. So it was kind of just like me, going across the street and working for the same company. It wasn't like, it wasn't breaking any rules really.
Across the street. What is it about them Showtime guys talking about across the street? I'm just kidding. Get back on it.
So yeah, I did that Canelo camp, as a kind of like a little favor kind of thing, and then it was just a perfect fit. It was so like always. It was what I did, at CBS pretty much, but it was just now doing it with boxing, and it was just I think just a perfect fit for me, because here I was able to do like TV and produce stuff where I didn't really know much about basketball and football. I played football in high school, but I don't think I have the same vast knowledge or history of stuff that I do about boxing, So just to be able to get that opportunity to do it, it was just like, it's like I really couldn't say no. One, I couldn't say no because I love the sport. And then one, I couldn't say no because it gave me so much too,
For sure, man. Well, look, it's Monday. It's April 17th. We're right in the middle of fight week, or at the start of fight week for one of the most anticipated fights, not of the year, but in recent memory. I mean, Canelo, Triple G, maybe. Mayweather, Pacquiao, obviously that was huge. But how has this been, man, to build up, being on your side of behind the scenes, Tank Davis, Ryan Garcia, obviously a gigantic event. You guys are working with the team from Golden Boy, and how's the entire production been? How's everything going thus far? And then what are your predictions? I don't know if you want to give predictions, but what are your thoughts on the fight?
I can't wait, man. I'm so excited for this. Being able to do the camp and, get to know Ryan and get that, behind the scenes look at these guys. I just love it so much, because it brings me back to when I was little. I'm kind of like, a little kid on the side still watching, so I'm just enjoying it. I enjoy every minute of it when I'm on these shoots and doing what I feel horrible saying it, but a lot of people don't get to do what they love to do. And I'm very, very lucky to, be able to work in this sport, and I can't thank, Emily Deutsch and David Dinkins for bringing me over, and Emily for letting me go and for David to bring me on.
That's awesome.
Because it's just, like I said, I feel like, I'm home, because I know this sport so well.
Are we gonna see
as far as the fight? And as far as the fight,
yeah,
I mean, I'm predicting a good fight, man. It's gonna be amazing. It's hard for me not to pick sides because like I'm on Ryan's camp. I feel like I'm part of Ryan's camp, because I've seen him the way he's working. He's working hard. He's a great kid, man. He's got a great head on his shoulders, and that's very impressive. I was impressed by that. Just to be at the age that he's at and be able to, just have this calm demeanor and still, just be able to be himself, and not to let these huge moments and these huge egos get to him. It's very, very nice to see him, a young man that's not so, into the outside things of boxing, It's great. He's definitely, a great boxer. So is Tank. So it's going to be a great night.
Absolutely, man.
Yeah, I'm with you, man. I'm all about the sport of boxing, and I'm all about boxing being better and better. I'm Team Garcia, because seriously, I'm Team Ryan Garcia because I truly believe Ryan Garcia, if he wins, I don't know. I can't predict the fight because I think it's that close.
Yeah.
But the reason why I want him to win is because I know Ryan Garcia will actually take on these opponents we want him to see. Now with Tank, 20 years, we've been waiting. So I'm Team Garcia with you. I'm hoping Garcia win this fight. I'm serious.
Well, on that note about, what happens after Saturday, the lightweight division, and I want to bring up, I had this down as a question. I put 130 through 140. Who do the ones that stand out the most to you? Because that's kind of where your dad hung out. So let's say Ryan Tank happens. We've got Loma and Haney fighting. You've got Shakur Stevenson making a splash. Where do you see the division in a year, man? Like, what do you think who's gonna be the king of the division? How do you think it's gonna look?
I don't know, man. It's tough. I think it's starting to become like the 154. It's just everywhere you look, there's just badasses at that division. You're just anywhere you go, it's danger because like Haney's tough, and so is Loma, and I mean all those guys. Anyone that's up in that upper echelon, top 5 of that weight class is. You never know what can happen, those nights.
So, Alexis, we know what area your dad fought in, right? So, have you, as long as you've been watching boxing, can you point to one fighter out here, like after your dad's career, that you watch boxing that reminds you of your father?
I like that.
Ooh.
I had that as a question, Corey. I'm scratching it off now.
You know what? A little bit of Ryan does a little bit, because he throws. My dad was a combination puncher. He always seemed to throw more than one. And I think Ryan is the same way, and he throws with power. That's the thing. Every punch that he throws is with power, and he hurts you. He can hurt you.
That's a high praise right there for Ryan Garcia. Like, you mentioned him in the same sense as one of the all-time great fighters, Alexis Arguello Sr.
He's got the technique. I think he's, a straight-up fighter, even though he drops his hands a little bit here and there, but he's got some of the attributes that go along, the straight punches, and that's the one thing that I look for that not too many guys do these days. They do the looping and the overhand, but those straight punches that my dad threw, those were, it was like a different art form. It was just so crisp and clean.
I saw you mention right now he puts his hands down. Whether he's putting the hands down or if he leaves the chin out or what, do you find yourself saying, "Hey Ryan, maybe you should work on this," or do you just stay in your lane?
No.
Come on, coach. You're a gym coach. You were a PE coach.
I would never, man. He's got his dad. He's got Joe. I can't. I love Joe and Henry, his dad. They were all so nice to us, and they were really great to us, and pretty much just brought us in. There was no questions asked. They were cool from the start. A lot of times, you get into these camps and. Everybody's weary about you and the crew and what you're out to get, So, but from the moment we got there, everybody was super nice but that we've experienced that for almost all the actions that I've been on. So, I can't really complain. It's gone really well.
Well, I don't know how true this is. It's just another one of them rumors that's just a floating from the 214 to across the pond. They say Earl Spence Jr. supposedly fighting Terrence Crawford on June the 17th. I don't know how true that is.
I can't wait to see that, but I don't know.
Like,
I don't know.
Is it 50-50? Is that 50-50?
I got the same info you guys have. So.
No, is the fight?
Who's gonna get that?
Yeah.
Oh my God. That might be tougher to call than Garcia Tank.
100%, dude. You're 100%.
That's going to be a tough fight, man. You
don't have a gut feeling where that's going. You don't have a gut feeling if you had to spend your last $100 on it.
I wouldn't bet on it.
You wouldn't bet on it. That's funny you say that because I was going to ask you, are you just like the rest of the fans with no clue? Or do you, like when they say June 17th, do you just roll your eyes? Or are you like, oh, this is happening, just like the rest of us? Or do you have some insight?
No, I don't have much insight. Like I would think that it should happen. I'm hoping that it does happen because it should, but I don't get any. Maybe if I go up the food chain within the company, I'll get more notice as to what's going to be happening in the near future. But I hear when you guys hear, so. You know, I'm
You
waiting for that to get out.
You talking about going up the food chain? You doing all access for the biggest fight in boxing right now?
Yes.
So I wonder.
I have to pinch myself sometimes. You know what? Because when I was at Benavidez plant for the last fight, I spent 18 years at CBS, and every single time a big fight would roll around, I would be like, God, I want to be at that fight. How did I get to that fight? And I hate to call people. I hate to kiss people's asses and be like, oh, can I get a ticket? I hate doing that. So for me to be at these fights now and look down at my credential and know that I didn't have to call anybody for it, and I'm there working, man. Yeah, I'm like, wow, oh man. One fight, I forget what fight it was. I think it was in the Barclays. I think it was Davis Romero. I looked behind me, or I was looking in a certain section, and Nas was sitting behind me. I was what is going on?
That's crazy, man.
This is nuts.
Real quick, you think if that Spence fight happened, they're going to send you to Omaha or they're going to send you to Dallas?
Ooh, I don't know. That's a tough one. You know what? I think one of my coworkers has done Errol, so I think I would have to go.
You holler at us. If you're in Dallas. Or, hey, I'm going to throw this out there. We hate begging people for tickets too. So if somebody at Showtime needs a couple of passionate boxing fans to watch the fight, come on, Alexis, give us a call.
What you guys have credentials?
I need you to be our Lori Orlando, or you know what I mean.
Oh, Lori, God bless her. She's amazing.
Yeah, man. Amazing. Hey, well, dude, we appreciate you, man. I know we've been back and forth a lot in the past couple of weeks. I
apologize for that, man. I'm so sorry to have you going back and forth.
Boxing is crazy. I think when we were initially talking, it was Plant Benavidez, and I was surprised that you made some time this week, man, with Tank and Ryan coming up. But y'all keep putting these fights together, keep putting out that great content. Man, keep representing your family name the way you do. I had an opportunity to talk with you for 10 minutes last year, and you reek of just a good dude. And it's obvious where that came from. Like I said, I told my father-in-law we were having you on the show, and he just lit up. He's a huge fan of your pops, dude. So thank you.
Thank you.
For sure, man. It's been an honor to have you on. Go ahead.
Are you in Vegas right now?
Yeah, I just got here today.
Nice.
So I know they're gonna film this last week. So when is filming tomorrow?
We'll start shooting tonight. We'll probably start shooting tonight.
Wow.
Just getting some of the grand arrivals tomorrow. So yeah, we'll probably shoot some Phoenix tonight, get some Las Vegas flavor, and then maybe some billboards that are out, things like that. That have the fight up, and then tomorrow is grand arrivals, so we'll be at the MGM at 2:00.
But like my guy JJ said, man, it's been an honor and a pleasure, man, to have a son. And this is what I like about you, man. You made your own way. You didn't. Everybody think something is given to somebody because your father is famous. It ain't always like that. In certain situations it is, but you proved to the world you made your own way through this game, and now you on top, man. That show the person inside of you. We definitely appreciate you coming on, and we look forward to talking to you real soon.
Oh, man. The honor's all mine. Thank you guys for having me, man.
Have a great week, man. We appreciate you, Alexis. Have a good one, man. We'll talk to you soon.
Thank you.
All right, listen up, guys. We're calling all Little League coaches. We're calling all middle school coaches, calling all high school coaches. We're calling out all those team mamas. If you need team uniforms, if you need jerseys, accessories, whatever gear you're looking for the team, please check out our friends over at Elite Sportswear. These guys do it all, and they do it great. So if you're needing a brand new look for the younger athletes, for the teams, do me a favor, trust us with Elite Sportswear. These guys do all of our gear here at Spit Bucket Podcast, hats, shirts, hoodies. We could not be more pleased with them. So check them out over at thebetteruniform.com. You can find them on Facebook at The Better Uniform or on Instagram, Elite Sportswear 17. That's Elite Sportswear 17 on Instagram. Again, if you want your team looking super fly on game days, do yourself a favor, do the squad a favor. Call Roderick and the team over at Elite Sportswear ASAP. Let them know the Spit Bucket Podcast sent you.
Check out the drip. Appreciate our homies over at Elite Sportswear. Y'all check them out at the better uniform, team gear. So if you're a team captain, you're a team mama, you want to upgrade that drip for the kiddos, y'all check them out. Check out Roderick and the team over at Elite Sportswear. But man, Corey, excellent interview, excellent time with son of a legend, boxing royalty tonight, man. Real interesting to hear his story and his adversity they had to come through. So good stuff.
Yeah, man. Salute to him, man. He's doing this thing, bro. Like I said, to get Christian with the Canelo, I forgot who Canelo was fighting with.
Canelo Plant, I think.
Yeah, he did that all access to now being in Ryan Garcia, probably the biggest star popularity-wise on the planet, bro. Like, to next gonna be in Spence and Crawford, bro. Like when this guy said he lucky, to be doing what he loved to do, but he earned it the hard way. Can't do nothing but salute and respect that, Jose Jr.
Absolutely, dog. We're going to go ahead and let y'all go, man. Get back to fight week. Corey and I will be back at some point this week, either tomorrow or the next day, to do some pre-Ryan, pre-Tank fight, chit-chat and discussion. So you guys tune in. Please subscribe. Please share. Please let folks know about the Spit Bucket Podcast. We got big plans. Big shout-out to our sponsors, KO Therapeutics. Check them out at KOCBD.com. Elite Sportswear. Check them out at the Better Uniform.
Number one in the world, baby.
And thanks to Alexis Arguello Jr. We appreciate having him on the show. But all right, Corey, have yourself a good night. Mr. IOTBA, brother. Yeah.
This is JJ Solomon.
This Corey Bradshaw, Mr. IOTBA. Mr. These boys can't touch me on my worst day. This is the Spit Bucket Podcast.